Hello and welcome to my channel. Here we learn the lore and stories of the world of Tyria. Today we learn about a race that has resurfaced after being hidden and unknown for a long time, the Lowland Kodan. What can we learn about them? Please follow along as we dive into the history, lore and culture of the Lowland Kodan. Sit back, relax and listen to Who are the Lowland Kodan? You can find the full lore and history of the race on the official Guild Wars 2 wiki. Let's begin. Long ago, in the icy lands of the far north, the Kodan lived in harmony with the frozen world. They were tall, wise, bear-like people, deeply spiritual and peaceful. They followed the teachings of Koda, the great spirit of balance, who they believed created all life. Each Kodan sanctuary was led by two, the voice, who spoke the words of Koda, and the claw, who protected the people and kept them strong. For generations, their lives were quiet and steady, guided by the cold winds and the ice beneath their feet. But peace shattered when Jormag, the elder ice dragon, awoke from its long sleep. The dragon's power brought terrible storms, freezing winds, and worst of all, corruption. Jormag twisted minds and broke the balance the Kodan held so dear. One group of Kodan, unwilling to fall to chaos, chose to leave. Led by a brave claw and a wise voice, they began a long journey south, away from the dying lands. The path was dangerous and cold. Many did not survive. Along the way, the voice, overwhelmed by doubt and sorrow, disappeared. Without her guidance, the claw pressed on, and eventually they found what seemed like a miracle. Warm earth, green trees, and flowing rivers. They had arrived in a new land, the edge of the Janthir wilds. A new way of life. Here, the Kodan began again, but they were forever changed by what they had endured. Without their voice, and without the icy world they had known, they could no longer follow Koda's teachings the same way. So they made a choice. They would listen to the land itself. These Kodan became known as the Lowland Kodan. They no longer looked only to the stars or the spirits. They looked to the sun, the soil, the plants, and the seasons. They believed balance still mattered, but now it came through working with nature, not just through ancient tradition. Their homes were built near hot springs and forests. They farmed, fished, and foraged. They raised bees, tended to herb gardens, and learned to read the signs of the wild. Even young cubs were taught how to survive, how to hunt, and how to fight. Not because they loved war, but because they knew that the world could turn dangerous at any moment. They also developed new ways of storytelling. Songs and tales were shared not only around fires, but carved into stones and painted on hides. These stories helped them remember where they came from and what they stood for. Some Kodan took on spiritual roles too, not as voices of Koda, but as dream watchers. These individuals studied the natural dreams of the wilds and interpreted signs from the land itself. If a tree shed its leaves too early, or the winds blew in strange directions, the dream watchers would speak, and the people would listen. The Council of Masters. With the old ways behind them, the Lowland Kodan created a new form of leadership, a Council of Masters. Each master was skilled in a different part of life and helped guide their people with care and wisdom. We get introduced to this time's leaders and elders in the latest expansion, Janthir Wilds, where we learn more about their culture, way of life, and the threats they face. The leaders in the present are Stoic Alder, the Claw, serving as leader. Barbed Veil, Spearmaster, trains warriors. Fading Aurora, Healing Master, uses herbs and warmth to cure wounds. Soaring Crest, Agriculture Master, knows the rhythms of the soil. Graced by Fire, Journeykin Master, guides travel and deals with outsiders. Lichen, Lore Master, keeping their stories alive. And more, each respected for their skill, not just their power. They even trained understudies to pass down knowledge, like Poised Arrow, Stoic Alder's son, who learned from all the masters. The Lowland Kodan believed that no one voice should rule. Instead, many voices should come together to find truth. Balance to them came from listening, not commanding. Life in the Lowlands. The Lowland Kodan were not just survivors. They were artists, musicians, and storytellers. At night, the villages would come alive with bonfire dances, the sound of flutes and drums, and the laughter of cubs playing games. They held sparring matches and derbies, not only to stay strong, but to build trust and pride. They read stories, soaked in the hot springs to rest their bodies and minds, and told tales of the old days and of brave deeds. Their way of life was simple, but full of joy, wisdom, and respect for the land. They often held festivals during the changing of the seasons. These gatherings brought the entire community together to give thanks to the land. One such festival, the Feast of First Frost, celebrated the beginning of winter with dancing, storytelling, and warm berry stews. The Janthir wilds and a new threat. But peace, as they knew, never lasts forever. In time, strange things began to happen deep in the Janthir wilds, a mysterious and magical land filled with ancient power. Titans, terrible beings of stone, magic and destruction, began to stir. Among them were Decima the Stormsinger and Greer the Blightbringer, creatures that threatened to corrupt everything they touched. The Lowland Kodan, protectors of balance, could not stand by. They joined forces with other brave souls from across Tyria, like the once Pact Commander, the Astral Ward, more on them in another video, and Malice Swordshadow, the sharp-minded Imperator of the Ash Legion. Together, they formed an alliance to fight back the rising danger. The Lowland Kodan offered their knowledge of the land, their strength in battle, and their deep understanding of harmony. They were more than warriors. They were guardians of the world's balance. Legacy of the Lowland Kodan. Through struggle, loss, and courage, the Lowland Kodan endured once more. They helped hold back the tide of corruption in the Janthir wilds, showing that wisdom and nature could still triumph over destruction. They began as refugees, then they became settlers, but in the end, they grew into something even more powerful. A people rooted in the earth, guided by many voices, and devoted to balance, peace, and the strength to defend both. Their story, passed down through hot spring songs and whispered forest tales, lives on. This has been the story and lore of the Lowland Kodan. I hope you enjoyed this video. When the Lowland Kodan were introduced in the Janthir Wilds trailer, I was very excited because I like the Kodan and I think they're a very interesting race, but I feel like they're a little overlooked, at least in my opinion. Anyway, with that said, thank you all for watching this video. Please like and comment something you learned or something that you would like to hear. Also subscribe to not miss future lore content in this format. Now, take care, and I will see you in the next story. Goodbye.